and welcome to Snappy Chat. I'm Christine Bell, and this is all about learning and growing together, because the one thing I have found in business is it can get really lonely sometimes. And this is why I love having these conversations. And today I have the lovely Sam here with us. She's going to tell us more about what she does, but she's amazing at negotiation and really teaching women how to ask for what they want and what they need, which is something I think we can all learn in life to do better. Many of us, especially women, also men sometimes. But anyway, this is all about having conversations. So thank you so much for being here, whether it's on live or record. But Sam, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. Please.
Good morning, Christine. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name's Sam Trattles. I am a negotiator. I help people to take the idea that they know what they want to ask for and then overcome that hurdle of how they ask for it, so they don't feel like they're being difficult or pushy or it's being awkward. So my background was 20 years in corporate across Australia and in Europe. And then the last sort of decade I've spent in focusing on the thing I love the most, which is negotiating, but making it so that what I learned from a corporate perspective and a deals table perspective and translate that into everyday leadership challenges. So yeah, it's been my joy. I've written a couple of books on it, and I love helping people when they are facing a challenge. So often people will come to me when they are sitting there going, oh, I either just missed out on something and I'm not sure what to do about it, or they're facing a challenge that they don't know how to go about it without making it feel uncomfortable. So that's what I get to do every day, and I feel really privileged to do that.
I love this, and thank you so much for being here and sharing. I just want to say hello to Royce. Thank you for being here. Lisa, great to see you. Yolanda as well. They're actually over from America, and I believe one of them is in the Caribbean as well. Lisa, somewhere like that. I've looked you up. It looks very nice. So great to have you guys here. So what I love as well is that you're actually taking your corporate experience, right, and actually helping smaller businesses as well, and everyday people who are just trying to build something for themselves in one way or form that is meaningful to them, and really translate those learnings, because I think we can learn a lot from corporate if we come from that background in terms of what the principles, and then what does that look like in a smaller business. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so challenging. I mean, I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I started running my own business. And weirdly enough, I really was challenged. You know, I was a deal maker. That's what I did every day. But as a service-based business, I was selling my brain. And so I took that really, really personally, and that I struggled with, because if somebody said no to me when I asked to get paid, you know, what I thought I was worth, I would take that really personally. So I had to learn how that's a totally different conversation. There's two different things, and decouple that. So I didn't learn how to do that in school, and not many people did. So that was what led me down the path of working out, okay, well, actually there needs to be a methodology for how do I ask, and how do I have these conversations so that I feel prepared, and that it is actually a conversation rather than, you know, I want this and you better give it to me or else I'm out of here. So
yeah, and that's so important in life and business, right? Whether you're in a big company with teams and managers, etc. And I think, you know, there's one thing of obviously having a conversation around salary, you know, and that can be scary because it comes back to our self-worth, I think, as well, and how we're brought up and what we've been allowed to do and not done to be a good girl or whatever, right?
Correct.
But it also comes through in life, yeah? It's about the little things in terms of honoring ourselves, in terms of really going, what do I need? What do I align with? What do I feel? And obviously in the context, do I still need to make money before I resign? Of course. But yeah, so I love what you're doing, because it's much deeper, isn't it? Right. It's negotiation can either happen in a win-lose perspective, or we can create win-win.
Or we can look at what's fair and what's reasonable. So when there's a challenge with win-win, because it feels like it's combative. So we do need to be very mindful of that. When we're looking for a fair and reasonable exchange, it's really easy to say, oh, well, this doesn't work for me and it doesn't seem to work for you, because that doesn't seem fair or it doesn't seem reasonable one way or the other. So we want to come together to understand what's your position and what have I missed. It's a bit like a science experiment. You know, I've got a concept, I've got an idea about what I think something's worth, or what I want, and then I need to understand from your perspective. So, you know, that's why it becomes this conversation piece, and then it's easy to know whether it's not going to work without having to have something awkward or uncomfortable, because it's pretty obvious. Oh, right, I'm coming at something very, very different to you. I respect your position, but that's a no from me.
I love how you just rephrased that and said, no, it's not about win-win. And that actually taught me something as well. And that's so true. And what I love about what you're saying is it's really around, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is it's around getting to a place where we're looking at the facts or what's going on in terms of specifics in front of us. So we're focusing more on the actual problem we're solving together.
Yeah.
Versus how do I feel when you say that to me? So it's almost about we have to separate the two. And that's a hard one, isn't it, though?
Yeah, absolutely. And even put it in a context of delegating tasks. So I might think, oh, Christine's really busy. I shouldn't delegate something to her. Whereas actually, that means I'm thinking for you. So we really need to come
I've
together
done
and have
that.
a conversation. Yeah, we all do it. And it comes from a very kind place. But we actually need to say, hang on, let's have a look at what's happening. I'm overfilled. You're overfilled. What do we stop doing? And then it becomes about we rather than I need you to do this and I'll do that or I won't do that. So it's just that coming together conversation piece that makes it feel like, well, we're trying to reach a resolution.
It sounds like it's actually moving it from almost a defensive place to a very collaborative, co-creating space almost as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most people tell me I don't like negotiating because it's about fighting. And it's like, yeah, well, I negotiate because I don't want to fight. So, but 87% of people are uncomfortable having these conversations. So it is absolutely, prolific that we haven't been taught how to do this and we don't know how to do it. But we do know because if you said to me, all right, if my mum said, can you go and get this for me? I'd go and do it in a heartbeat. And I wouldn't worry about that too much because I know I want to do my mum proud and get what she needs. So there's always times when we can do it well and feel really comfortable. So we need to just bring those times and bring them onto ourselves and say, oh, if I put myself in the middle rather than my mum, maybe then I can actually feel more confident and more comfortable just to go and ask.
It's such a liberating way, actually, if we buy into it and we're ready for it. Do you find, and I know we're also going to talk about other challenges, but this is so interesting. So it's a lot of your work around mindset as well, in terms of I was the people pleaser who grew up feeling safe or got love from people pleasing.
Yes,
Is that part of that what you have to work with as well, and really understanding ourselves and our ways of working?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things we get our clients to do we have an assessment online, which is about what stops you from asking. And that's about some key saboteurs, including the people pleaser, the workhorse, and there's one more, sorry. And so those saboteurs are the things that hold us back or put layers onto us. And it's like, no, you don't have to, you can do a great job and get what you need. One does not negate the other. It's just about becoming aware of that and making sure that you go, oh yeah, I'm doing that because I'm thinking for other people, which is again very kind, but does it get the job done?
Yeah. And I think this is so interesting because you've been doing this. How long have you been in business again? I know you mentioned, was it 10 years plus or more?
Yeah, about 11. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So with this in mind, I know when you first came out, I think you were working more with corporates still.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
right?
right. So I started B2B and have recently done the transition to direct
Yeah.
to customer, which has been a journey in itself. So
Yeah, because it's so interesting because we were just talking about this just before we went live, and it's so interesting because I'm also kind of moving a bit in terms of positionings and ideal customers, and it's not to say I'm cutting anyone out. It's just more how do I position myself, and it's so interesting because there are different reasons why we're doing this, but I think it is important regardless of your reasons. I think it's important sometimes to stop and check in our business, going, am I going in the right direction? Do I still want to go in this right direction, etc.? And I guess that's the journey you've been on, which I think many of us kind of go, oh no, I must just continue sometimes, when maybe it's not the right direction sometimes, or it stops being.
I was really lucky my second year into business. My mentor at the time, he was like, oh, I see what's happening. You're bored. You need a promotion. And I was like, well, who's going to give me a promotion? And he said, well, you're the boss. And so that really was one of the best gifts I got, because every other year I asked myself, am I doing what I like? Is this feeling like it's fun / easy / whatever. And if it's not, then we need to change it. And so a couple of years ago, I actually was going to chuck the whole business and get a proper job. And and then I didn't think I wanted to do that in the end, but I just completely smashed the business on the floor and said, okay, hang on, let's change it. What if it was direct to customer? What if I could help lots and lots of people from all different ages understand how to ask? And so that was the beginning of a 2.5-year project. And now I'm so excited again about where I'm going with the business, and have a new book on the way, and the chance to, look at all the different challenges that people have based on new conversations. So I do think we need to ask ourselves, is this what I want to be doing with my life? And that's the same with a job as a business owner.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, which is very exciting. It's like, well, you were helping business people in big businesses ask for the right things in their teams, etc., which is wonderful, and helping them be more successful and happier in the job, hopefully. But what I'm hearing is that perhaps there was something bigger calling you. Perhaps it sounds like there was a bigger calling to help more everyday people in everyday life situations, perhaps too, or is that right?
It's still in business, and it's still business leaders, whether you're in a business, whether you're in a corporate, or whether you are in a business running it yourself. I think the challenges are still very similar. It's, how do we ask for what we want without, without hesitation, I guess. The thing that shifted is my articulation of it. Negotiating is the solution. The problem is I don't know how to ask, without feeling that it's going to be a challenge. So the thing that excites me is when you see people click and go, oh, I can do that. I can ask for that. I can have that conversation. And that just blows my brain. Like, it's just so exciting for me. And then if I translate that down to, teenagers, anybody who I train, I say, look, if you've got kids, train them in this, because, how do you tell somebody to slow down in the car when they're driving too fast as a teenager? How do you say to them, I don't want to do this, I do want to do that? So if we can train people from a very young age not to lose that concept of being obstinate and saying, no, I don't want to do this, or yay, I really want to do that. So keeping that curiosity, keeping that determination about us, because as we age, that really tapers off. And the more layers that we're part of in business or in home, that can weaken that. So we really want to make sure that, okay, no, people need to be clear about, why is it a no from me? And then having the power to ask for that no, or saying that yes. Yeah,
I love this because it's a life skill. Absolutely. I know you're saying we're focused on businesses mostly still, but it's a life skill you're training, really, right? Yeah. And in terms of also, I want to go back, because you're a business owner, and this point where sometimes we get bored, or sometimes we go, I'm not sure about where I'm going or why I still want to do this. And I guess sometimes, as a business owner myself, you can go, well, I've committed to it, I just got to keep going, right?
Yeah, we have to make sure. Well, I mean, I am someone who has always said, when I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. And so that has a double-edged sword to it. It's great because you're Captain Reliable. However, it's not great because you don't maintain your own boundaries. So, we really need to make sure that we're being clear about what our boundaries are, how do we maintain them, and how do we use them for our own comfortability, so to speak. And really saying, hang on, what did I start out doing? And how did I get here? And should I stop, or should I renegotiate with myself? So, yeah, absolutely. I think that being reliable is one thing, but to what end?
Yeah, it's such a fair question, I think, in business, because we can burn out in business. It's not easy, I'm not saying that. Some people who are just somewhere, whatever, it all came together, etc., and it was fantastic. But there's always going to be challenges. I always compare a business journey to a self-development journey, right? Especially if you're running it and building it yourself, or with a small team. And it's so interesting because we start by taking risk. But somewhere along the line, do we stop and become risk adverse again? And is that the challenge as well, is to stay on our edge in terms of, that's where the power is, in terms of going, okay, I can feel, because we don't know how markets are all over the place, right? We don't know, we're coming and going, what's going to happen next. And everyone talks about adaptability, but how can you predict something? So you can't really prepare for it either, right? So I wonder if it comes back to, and it's just a thought I had, does it come back to staying on the edge, like that risk we took when we first started out? Do we need to keep the finger on the pulse and go, right, and take those courageous conversation, but also courageous step to keep going with something that feels right?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I'm not sure, because for me, I'm a calculated risk girl. So I have been a little bit too safe in my business over the last decade. So I've had to learn, actually, maybe I need to step out a bit bigger. But at the same time, I think that it's about, well, what does it feel like? Does it feel right? And then if it does or doesn't, then we step from there. But something's happening in the background. I don't know what's that.
Yes. My husband is having some tech problems. He knows he's supposed to be quiet. He's having some tech problems, but he's trying to turn it off.
That's okay. I thought it was from there.
I was like, no. I'm like, okay, I heard it. I'm like, I'm hoping that, fingers crossed. But welcome to live shows, yeah?
I love it. So normal.
This is what it is. It's just a conversation, live show. Things happen, internet, husband, whatever. Yeah, in this case too. Anyway, yeah, so back to you. So in terms of saying you were almost too safe and calculated, right? So for you, it's been like going, hold on, let me take some risk here.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the piece of evolution of any business or any family situation. We have to keep evolving, things flex and change, but really being attuned to that and listening to yourself. I mean, I think about when I had a job, and one of my friends said to me, we always had this one Christmas every year, we would have this catch up. And one year I said to her, I think I'm going to leave my job. And she said, oh, for goodness sake, don't waste my time. And I was like, oh, that's pretty full on. And she said, do you know how many of these lunches we've had this conversation for? And I said, oh, no, I don't know. She said, 4. Wow. And she said, I don't want to have this conversation this lunch. Either do something about it or, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, what a gift. I mean, it was tough.
And what a friendship too, that she felt safe enough to be honest with you and to share something that was obviously going on, but you weren't fully conscious of at the time.
Yeah, and now I think about, my work buddies in business land, and we have similar conversations. Okay, we've had this conversation for the last 3 quarters. What's going to change? So trying to be aware, but also don't just be a good friend, be a really bloody great friend and say, what can we do? What do you need a hand with that's going to help you shift from where you are because you're stuck? Who do you need to ask? What do you need to ask for? And then what do you do next? So, that to me, that makes it so that it opens this conversation up, because at the moment, a lot of the things that we want to ask for, we lay in bed thinking, oh, I should have said that. I could have said that. I would have said this if that hadn't happened. So, how do we break that down and go, hang on, I'm going to ask, but I need to do a few things before I'm ready to ask. And who and what and how will I go about that?
Yeah, and it's such an interesting time to have those conversations with ourselves, right? Because if you look at the outside world, it's a little bit chaotic, right? It's a little bit scary, etc. Yeah. And I think working in consumer psychology, at least, in my business, it's like we tend to be safe. We tend to, like with that, we tend to go, okay, it's better to stay where I am. I'll just stay in my little hole. I'll just stay put, right? I won't take that chance on that business because I don't know, what about the job? What about the money? All these important things to ask, of course, but there's so many reasons, I think, in the world to stay put that we can rationally go, well, I should do, and this is blah, 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 and this is the reasons why, right? But sometimes it's just what's calling in here. What would make you feel excited to, maybe not 100% of the time, but 80% of the time, to show up going, I enjoy what I do. I feel I'm doing something meaningful. I'm trying to give of myself in my business. It's more than just doing a job. It's actually about adding value in whatever form we can each do it, right? Both in terms of product, service, but also whatever way we delivered it.
Yeah.
And I think it's
yes, sorry.
No, you go.
No, to build on that, I think the thing is we need to think, okay, think about a time when you thought, oh, I don't want to ask for that, it'll rock the boat. And then something happened and you had the conversation, and then it was like, oh, I feel so much better. So you don't need to wait. If you wait, that's when it turns into, it's frustrating. So how can we have, a conversation today that's a small one? Hey, I've been thinking about my position or this agreement or our relationship. It isn't kind of gelling. How do you feel? And then that starts something. It doesn't need to be, I've got to change everything or I need a whole new blah, blah, blah. It's just take one little step that makes somebody else feel comfortable to open the conversation and say, yeah, no, you know what? I don't like that either. Let's change that.
Yeah. And what's the best way to open that? Is it about getting more away from the interpersonal potential dynamics and more focusing on what we both want to create together or build together or work together or not have to?
It depends on the situation, but I think, thinking about where you're having that conversation and when, like I have a new housemate, which is very strange for me, but, at the moment with everything storming and, norming and whatever, and it's like, when do I tell him about how he loads the dishwasher? It's driving me crazy. But, to what end, again? So, I have to choose the situation. I can't say, the dishwasher and the bench tops and the something else, it's kind of like, let's have one conversation and actually make sure it's a conversation. Like I said something the other night and I was like, oh, please don't do that. And I realized the next day that was not a conversation. Whereas if I'd said to him, hey, how do you feel about cockroaches? Because they freak me out. So how will we talk about, cleaning the benches a bit more or getting the cleaner in a bit more regularly? So I sort of think, how do you broach the subject with, depending on the person and the timing and, where you would have that. So, a work colleague might be go for a walk and talk and just say very softly, oh, how's everything going for you?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just opening up a conversation, and then we can't make people talk, of course. They've got to be ready for it, but at least we're opening it up to at least sharing that we want to see and hear them. And if they have something, we will be there for them, right?
Yeah. And if we wait, then it becomes, well, what do you think about blah, 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 blah. And there's expectation on that conversation. So as soon as it starts to feel there's a niggle or there's some tension, that's a cue, that, okay, maybe I should just say, hey, what do you think about this? Or that thing that happened last week was a bit weird. Shall we talk about that? Yeah. So, it doesn't always have to be a crescendo. It can be just, as we go through.
Yeah, and just circling back, because we're going to finish soon, but I just want to circle back to the whole thing of changing from one business style, one business model to another one. That's a really interesting. What was driving it? Was it really around wanting more to work with other people? What was really driving that in terms of where the call came from?
It was a number of things. One, turns out I was bored. But more it was, I can help more people because, corporate training's great. I love it. But also I think, being able to work with somebody through a negotiation of any kind and see how that translates. I've got clients who I've worked with for, 12 years through negotiation after negotiation after negotiation and then being told, we don't need you anymore, Sam, because we've got it. And I'm like, yay, that's so exciting. So, I think that working direct with people over a duration, that's probably made me more excited. And just seeing my business differently. I think that's been the big change is like how, to market to one persona and then completely change and go, oh, wow, that's so
how do I do this?
Yeah.
So you like the challenge too. You enjoy the challenge of going, okay, I've done this great and I love it, but I really want to do this. And that's a challenge. So it's about embracing challenges sometimes, right? Going, I don't know it, but I'm going to learn it.
Yeah, and what's the worst that can happen? So let's play this game.
Yeah, I love that because that's the courage, the attitude, right? In terms of saying, okay, what do I got to lose? And yes, you could possibly come up with, I could lose this, money, blah, 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 whatever, right? But what do you got to win? What do you got to gain from it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it worth taking the chance? Will you worry about it in 10 years? Sometimes I say you can taking like a moment, either whether it's a minute, 10 minutes, even a year for some things, maybe sometimes just ask, how would I feel in 10 months if I did this? How would I feel in a year if I'd done this, right?
Yeah, and how would you feel if you didn't? If you didn't, you'd be like, I wonder about that. At least you know. Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing. And then also we don't know everything that's going to happen in life, but we do have this life right now. So
yeah,
how do you make it the best? Because no one else is going to come and say necessarily, I'm going to make your life the best for you, right? We gotta work from ourselves. We gotta take ourselves and go, what do I want? What do I like? What do I need? What do I deserve?
absolutely.
What can I give us?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on. Now, in terms of people getting hold of you, if you got books as well, maybe you can share a little bit about the books and where people can learn more about you and what you do and get some support from you.
Yeah, thank you. That's been a great chat. Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It always goes all over the show.
That's good. I think what I'd encourage anyone today listening to this is just do one thing differently, out of everything we talked about, what resonated, and then just take one step that you wouldn't have done yesterday. So please try and do that. And then if you want to get in touch, so the website is thepowertoask.com, and we've got the books on there, and then the assessment that I mentioned earlier about what stops you from asking. And then if there's a negotiation or something you're worried about, just reach out and, we can talk about training or consultancy from there. So, yeah, enjoy.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everyone who did show up. Yolanda says, if you don't ask, people assume you're fine. Challenges push you forward faster. Absolutely. Sometimes, if we just stay safe the whole time,
yeah,
are we going to miss out on our dreams? If we really have dreams that we want to fulfill, let's go for it. Thank you.
Thanks,
and thank you so much,
Cheers.
guys, for being here.
Thanks, everyone.